And again, welcome to Bit Depth. I'm Santiago Ramones, and this is Libby. Hi, Libby.
Hi.
I know you from, middle school?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeez. I've always found you incredibly interesting.
Oh.
Have I, said that to you before? But I think there was a point and just to make it as extremely awkward, especially with your boyfriend in the room, is that I was obsessed with you in middle school. My angsty teenage years didn't happen in high school. They happened in middle school, and I went through all of that really quickly all at once, and then grew up my sophomore year. And so you were influential in sort of my tastes then, which is why I like Radiohead so much now.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's really... Wow. I'm blushing.
But that's not really... Because, I didn't know you that well then anyways. So it wasn't even really you. It was the teenager's idea of what had been created there.
I didn't know me well either.
Yeah. But there was also there was a point where I tried reaching out a lot, and it was very bad timing on my part, especially because of what you were going through then.
That's okay. I had no idea what was happening.
Exactly. What was happening?
Well, let's see. So, I guess in 8th grade is when the existential dread kind of appeared. And I guess, I always felt weird, growing up. I had friends. I wasn't bullied at all.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really hard for me to make friends.
Yeah.
Because I guess, the things that I liked weren't really things that other people, also liked.
Mm-hmm.
There were people who liked it, and these were the people that I wanted to be friends with.
Yeah.
But, I only met them, through the internet and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. And there was, it was really rare for me to find people like you and the few people that I did connect with in middle school and high school that I related to. And so let's see, 8th grade. I remember, so I had English class with Mr. Johnston, and I loved Mr. Johnston. I had a really stupid crush on him. Anyway, and I remember, because, English teachers are, have you write journals every now and then about, inspirational people, which is what I remember. So he was okay, write about a musician that you really, really like. And so I wrote about Tom York. And so this one class period, I, volunteered to read my, journal out loud because I was just so excited about writing about Tom York.
Exactly.
And so, and when I read it out loud, his voice, he was oh, I love Tom York. And his voice cracked. And I was there are other people like me. And, yeah. And so I really, I attached myself to, these bands because they kind of helped me feel more normal. And especially while I was going through all this weird stuff, which, honestly, looking back, I don't really know why it all happened. There's scientific explanations, genetics and chemicals in the brain, etc., etc. But still looking back, it's I had a really good life. I was an only child. I was never hungry. I had good friends that I got to see every now and then. But somehow I ended up with an eating disorder that didn't go away for, until 2 years after I graduated high school. Maybe 3, I don't know. I'm bad with years. It's 2016. I don't know. But yeah, I actually forgot your original question.
Well, I mean, so when did that eating disorder sort of manifest?
Let's see. Yeah, so it was 8th grade, and I remember, so I was swimsuit shopping, because it was summer, and we had a pool, and I remember trying a swimsuit and, crying and telling my mom, okay, well, I'm not wearing a swimsuit until I get plastic surgery, because I was just that angry, and I wasn't expecting to get plastic surgery. And it's it kind of came out of nowhere, because I was always afraid of being vain and being perceived as vain. And so that's why for, the longest time I never admitted to having body image problems, because I thought it was just kind of first world problem, kind of privileged white girl thing. Yeah. But now, looking back, I realize that there's, this institutionalized, I'm just, women especially are kind of screwed by capitalism. Yeah. Because, it's really easy to tell, this one group of people that they're not pretty unless they buy this product or lose this amount of weight and stuff like that. Yeah. And when you grow up seeing these, beauty commercials and, is it just her or is it maybe it's Maybelline, And then I also got really focused on, clean eating, quote-unquote clean eating, which that just turned into a big mess. I got really compulsive and obsessive. I don't have OCD, but I was really, really obsessive about, making sure that everything I ate was, perfect, good stuff for the body. Yeah. And, looking back again, I remember... the stuff that I ate was actually really stupid, fat-free ice cream and, Fiber One cereal that basically tasted like dog food mixed with cardboard. And,
Which is probably also mixed with cardboard anyways.
Yeah, it probably was. And, I remember there was one time, this is my freshman year of high school, and so... my friends wanted to go to this football game, and we ended up staying there until 11 o'clock. I got home around 11:30, and I hadn't run on the treadmill for the day. So I stayed up until 1 o'clock because I had to run on the treadmill, and all of a sudden I found myself in my pediatrician's office, and my pediatrician is telling my parents okay, she has 2 weeks to gain X amount of weight. Yeah. Until I, recommend that she goes to a hospital. Yeah. And I ended up in Tulsa at Laureate, totally confused as to how I got there, because, I didn't really feel the same as other girls I was with, and maybe that's because I was in denial about the body image problems, and they weren't. But it was still really hard to find people to relate to. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe it was trying to fit in or be accepted by other people. Because I still have this drive. I have to be at least as pretty as the prettiest, which is total crap.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah, but it doesn't go away. And today I went out to Walmart. And I didn't, do my hair. And my hair is, naturally curly. But it, to me, it curls in a way that I think just totally looks ridiculous. And other people say, oh, yeah, your curly hair is great, blah, blah, blah. But, the entire time I was, messing with my hair, trying to make sure it didn't, do something that looked totally weird. Yeah. And so, yeah, I can't remember what I was saying, but there was a lot of that.
Because I remember, bits of it, because I talked to you sort of in between, but just kind of more as a classmate rather than like someone that was trying to understand what you were going through. But like I do remember that you had gone to Laureate, and you started with anorexia, but then you started being bulimic too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And why did that?
Yeah, that's something I've also... I haven't really thought about that enough, because it's kind of strange. But statistically, like, I can't remember the numbers, but it's pretty common for people to start out that way. And, like, I know, at least for me, like, this might get a bit too gross, but, like, whenever people, like, get really malnourished, their muscles sort of waste away. And so, like, the diaphragm, in your esophagus, that's supposed to keep you from, like, having super bad reflux or stuff like that. Like, mine got super weak, and so it got really easy for me to make myself throw up.
Yeah.
And I just ended up doing that. And also it was because, like, I would eat, and my stomach would hurt.
Yeah.
Like, a lot. And then later, in 2013, which, let's see, I went to Laureate the first time in 2010. So 3 years later, I figured out I had celiac disease, and like learning that and following like the gluten-free diet helped me like not feel sick all the time.
Yeah.
Because part of it was I need to lose weight, but then eventually I would lose enough weight that I would be like, okay, this is fine, but then I wouldn't stop making myself sick.
Yeah.
And part of that was because it didn't feel good to eat, and because it was also a coping mechanism. Like, whenever I got really anxious, purging releases endorphins, and so, like, it makes you feel better for some reason.
Yeah.
And then there was also the depression bit of it. Like, if I make myself throw up enough, then my electrolytes will get messed up enough so that I'll have, like, some sort of heart attack and die. And it won't be, like, suicide, make my parents, like, sad or anything like that. It'll just be like, oh, well, this, privileged white girl just was too vain and, accidentally died. And so that's another part of it. But eventually that all went away somehow, which is very nice. I'm very glad to be distanced from that now.
Yeah. I mean, and forgive me for being, like, incredibly, like, analytical into your life, but I did know your mom a little bit, and I kind of can tell where a lot of your anxiety comes from. Cause your mom, like, worries a lot, worries too much.
Yeah. She's gotten a lot better. We both started, Zoloft last year, and, that, I think, combined with me moving out, really, like, made our relationship a lot better. And, like, today we like, she called me, and we didn't really have, like, an argument, but, like, we were talking about money and stuff like that,
Sure.
and I got super anxious. But usually, like, aside from matters of money, like, we're really good buddies. And, like, looking back, I really am thankful for the values that she raised me with.
Sure.
Because I don't know, I that's another thing, is my self-confidence has gotten a lot higher in the past couple of years. It's not great, but it's better than it was. And part of that is, like, well, I'm glad I'm not stupid. And I think a lot of that I have my mom to thank for.
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, she was critical, but in a way that, like, she wanted me to be the best person that I could be. And, like, I'm also her only child.
Yeah.
It's not like she had experience raising a child. And whenever you do have anxiety like that, and you have one child, right? And then all of a sudden this kid ends up with an eating disorder.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I can't imagine what that was like. And I still have a lot of guilt from that, but it's kind of, I'm trying to move past it.
Yeah. But I mean, because I remember the crap that I went through whenever I was in middle school, and I wonder if, like, you feel the same thing, that you remember your thoughts from then, but I don't know why. Like,
yeah.
Why did I think these things?
Yeah.
Because that was me, definitely. It made sense then, and I don't understand why.
Yeah. I think that part of it was growing up Catholic. There was part of me that was, like, hearing the message that, like, we're sinners just, like, innately, and we don't deserve Jesus, but he died on the cross, and, like, wondering, what the hell does that mean? There's this guy, that existed a long time ago, who died a horribly painful death, and that is supposed to, like, forgive me for my sins, but only if I love this guy enough, and tell everybody that I love this guy. And that didn't make much sense. And so whenever I failed to do that, I think, not really consciously, but it did affect me. Like, I remember going to confession, and I only went to confession, like, 4 times, and each time I cried. The first time I went to confession, I remember telling the priest that I felt bad because my mom was the one who always had to feed our pet frogs. And he laughed. And I didn't understand why.
Yeah.
Because I was like, no, you don't understand. I'm not being a responsible child. I need to take care of these things that my parents went out of their way to get for me, and, like, they have to, like, it's not, like, whenever you have frogs, you don't just, like, get little pellets out, like, for fish. You have to have crickets. And you have to keep them alive long enough to feed the frogs. And, like, it was really hard for my mom. And, like, we kept the crickets out in the garage. And I'm totally going on a tangent right now, but
it's totally fine.
This also feeds into a weird phobia that I got of tornadoes. And so there was one time that, we had the frogs, had the crickets, and there was a tornado. And we also had our extended family from Maine over. And we have a tornado shelter in the garage by the crickets, where the crickets were. But this tornado shelter probably only fits, like, 3 people comfortably.
Yeah.
But we somehow managed to shove, like, 6 or 7 people in there. And also, there were a bazillion dead crickets. Because they didn't always stay in their container. And somehow this experience made me totally afraid of tornadoes. But anyway, back to the crickets and confession. I think I've always had a big problem with guilt, and it's getting better. But that did have a lot to do with the, like, self-hate problems I had that fed into my eating disorder. And especially, and once I was diagnosed with an eating disorder, I didn't understand it, because, like, I was like, well, I don't think I'm ugly, even though now I realize that there's part of me that thinks I'm, like, a total gremlin. But, like, at the time, I didn't understand it, except in terms of, well, I don't deserve food. Other people should have it, which is kind of weird. But, that's how it was.
Yeah. It's very interesting that, I don't know, that we can make those leaps of logic that, at least then it feels like, well, obviously, since I'm not a good person, I don't deserve food, but, looking at it from a collected perspective, you're like, that's the silliest thing I've ever heard.
And there was still, like, I felt guilty for not finishing my food, too. Because it's like, if I throw this away, there's the whole stereotypical, starving children in Africa, which is totally a Western-centric, moderately, I don't want to say racist, but it kind of is racist. At least kind of, maybe more than kind of. but there was that idea of, well, I've got to do this or else I'm a horrible person for throwing away my leftovers.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's strange to see what those strange and silly experiences sort of turn us into. That regardless of what we actually thought then. Hopefully it turns us into better people now.
Yeah.
So, other than, like, that story, what's some stuff about you? That, like, I totally forgot to get the just introduction about you.
Oh, that's fine. I'm still trying to figure out who me is, which I think is a lifelong journey, obviously. I don't know, I like music. I probably started to be obsessed with music out of necessity. Like I said, it kind of made me feel less weird knowing that there's, like, you know, Tom York is out there with his, you know, lazy eye making this, like, awesome music that is, like, not... It sounds different than the pop music on the radio. And I don't know why what's the word? Why I liked it so much. I can't remember the word I'm trying to say. Anyway, but I did. So there's music. Oh, I played piano for a while, and I still try to, but, like, piano's been hard for me because for some reason, no matter how hard I try, I can't remember any of it. Like, the only song I remember how to play is it's Clocks by Coldplay, and it's literally, like, 6 notes.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, what else? I like video games. I like books. I like school. But it's been a while since I've really been able to, like, really get into school since I've been sick. Because, like, when I had my eating disorder, like, I tried to go to high school.
Yeah.
But I think, like, it wasn't until, like, my senior year I finally gave up. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to do this all online.
Yeah.
And the online program that I used was really for people who, like, had been in horrible accidents or, like, had, like, you know, really bad cancer or something, and they just didn't have energy to study. And so I felt like I cheated my way out of high school, really, because, like, you know, these programs, like, all I had to do was Google the answers.
Yeah.
And so, and then I went to college, and it was okay for a couple of years, but I ended up getting sick in a different way, that I'm still trying to figure out what's wrong with me, but we're on the right path, I think. Recently I figured out I have sleep apnea, which isn't a surprise, because my dad and my mom's dad both had sleep apnea, and so the sleep study that I had done recently showed that apparently I didn't get REM sleep during the entire 9 hours that I slept, and so maybe that's been making it harder for me to concentrate and read and stuff like that. But that's been the worst part. Sorry, I'm just, like, babbling on.
Go for it.
It's been really hard for me to read, which is how I ended up just dropping out, really, from school, because I'm a philosophy major, and whenever, like, in philosophy classes, there's a lot of reading that you have to do, and sometimes it's super dense, and I just couldn't really take it anymore, so I kind of quit. But that's something I'd like to go back and pursue more.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What made you choose philosophy?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, it's interesting because I originally started out as a biology major. And that's really just because when I was a kid, I was obsessed with animals. And stuff like that. But then I think whenever I got a bit more like depressed, I was looking for answers. And I remember the Stoics really helped me out of some of my worst like ruts. I remember a quote by, I think it's Epictetus, and I probably said his name wrong. And I'm probably misquoting, as he probably didn't even say this, but basically, like, the quote basically said that we can't control the bad things that happen to us, but we can, to a certain extent, at least, control our reactions. Mm-hmm. And so that, I guess, kind of got my attention, and I started reading more of the Stoics, and then I started just reading more in general, and I liked it a lot. It felt like an important part of being a human that a lot of people miss. Like, even, like, one thing that bugs me a lot is, like, when scientists say that philosophy is bullshit.
Yeah.
Because they don't realize that by doing science, they're also doing philosophy, or they
Sure.
at least need philosophy to do their science.
Yeah.
So, I guess to me it's like maybe the base of knowledge. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like I need to understand philosophy before I really understand other things.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't hate, but this is a common question that I ask, and it's just, what do you want to do?
That's a good question too. I mean, right now I'm a pharmacy tech, which is fun. And I'd like to, like I said, I'd like to get back into school. And it'd be great to become like a professor someday. Yeah. I'd really love to get my doctorate in philosophy. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I'm okay with being a pharmacy tech as long as I need to be to keep moving forward in my quest for meaning and knowledge, etc.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because, I don't know, a lot of the first thing that sort of becomes important to people whenever they describe themselves is also what they strive to be. And so, I mean, for example, even myself, like, I do want to compose music for video games, and so I do have just this idea of what, if my goal were accomplished, I would be Jeremy Soule or Darren Korb in a smaller sense. People here don't know who they are, but Jeremy Soule did the soundtrack for the Elder Scrolls games. Yeah.
Nice.
Or Martin O'Donnell, who did Halo.
Okay.
So, like, I had this idea of, like, a goal to strive for. Mm-hmm. And that sort of shapes what I do and the steps that I take towards being whatever the hell I am. But, and so, I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm trying to move forward so much, but it's okay to not know.
Yeah. I guess I kind of have an idea of, like, not as much as, like, what I want to do, like, occupation-wise, mm-hmm. but, like, I know what I want to do as a human. I know that I want to be nice to people, and I want to be open-minded, and I want to continue to be curious, because I think that's one of the things that my mom kind of taught me to be, that I really, really am really glad for, because I don't think I would have ended up where I am if I wasn't curious. And I want to continue to, like, be critical of myself in a way, like in a positive way, so that I keep moving forward. And if I said I want to be nice to people, I think, I don't know if I said that, but I'll say it again, because that's something that's really important that I think goes taken for granted a lot. Less so now that like Facebook and social media has been around. Like, because I've noticed some of my friends from high school who never post anything, posting like really passionate rants about like things that are going on in the world that aren't okay. And like, I don't know. I guess if anything, I just want to stir the pot, rock the boat, whatever. And help people like question things.
Yeah. And then the hard part is like living in between there, because because surviving is hard.
Yes.
But I mean, okay, so one of the fun things that I only know vaguely about is that you're a comrade.
Oh, yeah. Well, honestly, that has kind of faded a bit, because that actually had more to do with the relationship I was in previously than it did my really, like, looking at things and deciding for myself like what I thought was most effective. And, like, I definitely say I'm a democratic socialist, more so than someone like Bernie Sanders. Like, he's pretty cool, but, like, it's still an American socialism.
Sure.
I'd say, like, ideally something more like the Scandinavian socialism would be great. And I really admire Marx and Engels, and what they had to contribute to philosophy and to political philosophy. But I think now that I'm less attached to a specific person, I've gotten a lot more perspective and seen that there are some beneficial things from capitalism, but capitalism in itself, like, you are always going to have a lower class that gets shits on. Like, it's always going to, there's always going to be people who have nothing, and I think that is not the way that any country needs to be run. Yeah. So, there's got to be a way to get around that.
Yeah. I mean, what do you... First of all, let's see... Where are your beliefs now as far as just, let's go with existence?
Existence? Well, I don't think I exist for a reason, but I'm glad that I exist. And I think that I can make something out of my existence. I'd rather be a positive impact on this world than a negative one, which I think might be less hard than some people think it is. Yeah. But I don't feel meaningless, which I think is easy to do, especially when, like, I think I just said that I don't exist for a reason. And it's funny because once I, like, became less religious, I thought I had more meaning. Because all of a sudden, like, I have to drive myself. Yeah. It's not, I'm not living for somebody else's meaning. And that also feeds in, or has to do with the relationship that I was just in. Like, because I kind of had this idea, like, that I wasn't worth loving, and all of a sudden this person came along and was really nice to me, and they kind of, and I only figured this out through therapy, they kind of became a Jesus figure for me, like, oh, they're sacrificing themselves in order to love me and forgive me, blah, blah, blah. and I ended up absorbing like a lot of their ideology because I thought that they were really smart, and they were smart in many ways. But I just lost my train of thought. Oh, existence, yes. Yeah, through all of the weird experiences I've had, I've learned to appreciate life a lot more, and yeah, I think that I can do more than I used to think I could. But it's also, I think, because I keep my goals pretty small. Like I said, like just being nice to people is really, really rewarding. Like working in the pharmacy, like I experience a lot of people who are not very happy all the time. But like way more than half the time, if I'm nice to them, they like calm down. And like, you know, I might see a smile.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, I like that's a goal, but I've never seen you be a bitch.
I can be, but only with the people that I love.
I don't know. I can't really picture that, but yeah. It's rare. But I mean, what, I guess that leads to another, what value do people have to you? Either the people in your life and also just the people everywhere else.
Well, the people in my life give my life value. Like, they make my life worth living, which is a pretty selfish, possibly selfish thing to say. I don't know, but at least people that I'm close to, they add to the joy I get out of life. If I was, you know, if I didn't have the friends that I have, I would not be the person that I am. The people that I'm around, like, they drive me to be better, to be a better person, and I think also humanity as a whole drives me to be a better person. Just like looking at the headlines these days, of all the terrible crap that's happening, that also it makes me want to be a better person, but for the good of the whole.
Yeah.
I think we really need to educate people a lot better, because I think if we could teach people humility, and that, like, the bravest thing, like saying that you're, like, admitting that you're wrong is one of the bravest things that you can do. Teaching curiosity instead of, like, clinging desperately to beliefs, like, you know, religious beliefs or whatever beliefs. Yeah, sorry, I just totally got off track again. But I think humans are very, 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 very special because of a lot of things, a lot of reasons. But it's especially interesting to see the way we evolve. Just like thinking back on the past 10 years, and the way the internet has changed. It has changed the way people think.
Yeah.
And the way people communicate with each other and share ideas. I think it's pretty awesome. And so people are pretty special, and we need to preserve the good things in order to make sure that the bad things don't continue.
And that's, how do you fit with the rest of that?
How do I fit? What do you mean?
Yeah, since you want to help all those people? How do you help them?
Well, I know I'm not going to help all those people, but I know that, and this is something I've thought about a lot, like with social media, it can be, I think, a powerful tool to battling injustice in the world. Like, I can, be like, using the bathroom on Twitter, like calling out somebody from halfway across the world who's being a total asshole racist.
Sure.
But if you do it in a way that's compassionate enough and doesn't make them feel like a shitty person, then maybe they'll listen and change.
Yeah.
So yeah, and also, like, it'd be nice to be able to use my personal experiences in like, with an eating disorder and in a relationship that wasn't healthy. It'd be nice to be able to use that to help other people in my place. So yeah, those are some things.
Just to go on that tangent, how do you tell a fucking racist to not be a fucking racist?
Yeah, it's hard to not be angry. It's really hard. And, I mean, it's okay to be angry. It's hard to not show the anger, I guess. Anger is a really good catalyst, but from what I see, whenever you're trying to confront somebody about, like, things that they do that are not okay, being angry does not make it better. It doesn't make them think, oh, I should rethink all of my values, And it's interesting, I'm reading a book that Jordan, my boyfriend, got for me called Intuition Pumps and Other Tools for Thinking by Daniel Dennett. And he actually talks about, he talks about ways that you can, like, in an argument, like, try and, like, I guess convince your opponent that they're wrong, I guess. And, like, some of the ways that he says is, like, acknowledge their, like, the things that they say. And, like, say, like, and I guess this really only applies in philosophical arguments, because, like, it's hard to learn anything from racism. But one of the things is, like, acknowledge that you've learned something from their point of view. I think the most important thing is to make sure that you don't make them feel like an idiot or like they're being attacked, because that's the best way to keep them to make them cling on to their beliefs harder.
Especially Klingons.
Yes.
Dang, made him walk away. But okay, so because that is something that I see very much in. I don't say much on social media, but I lurk a lot, and I just fall down these rabbit holes of people yelling at each other, especially in politics lately, obviously. But most of the time, what happens is that the people who are starting those arguments aren't there because they want a discussion. They don't even really want to convince the other people. They want to, but that's not what they're doing. They're really just shouting. And so there's so many times where I'm like, I could get into this, but there's already hundreds of comments underneath this. So who am I to convince this person? But in trying to be a positive influence on the world, I don't know. It's hard to see a way to just jump in and at least plant a seed.
Mm-hmm.
Because we want to educate people.
Mm-hmm.
I guess what's something through philosophy that you've learned about dealing with people?
Let's see.
Yes, that's a very hard question. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Not sure where this fits in with philosophy. But I remember, so earlier this year I read an article by Noam Chomsky talking about how, like, Trump supporters are mostly white guys who are scared.
Mm-hmm.
And how, like, fear drives people, like, so, like, it's just it's really powerful.
Yeah.
And it's really good at making people, like, cling to their beliefs and fight really hard because they're afraid of being wrong. And I guess something that I've learned from philosophy is being wrong. And this is even, Daniel Dennett mentions this in his book. Like, making mistakes, being wrong is like, that's not a bad thing. It's how you learn.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I guess, like I said, the best way to confront people and open up dialogue is by being gentle enough so that they don't, like, throw up their walls immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or literally.
Or literally. Oh, God.
But, I mean, have you been successful in that?
I don't know. Well, so there's been one time that I made a post on, so I saw a post on Tumblr, which, yes, I have a Tumblr. I don't really care. But I saw a post on Tumblr that was being totally, like, rude about and hateful about, like, body image and, like,
Sure.
health and how fat people can't be healthy, etc., etc. And so I replied about how a lot of the most of the health craze is thanks to capitalism.
Sure.
And, like, you know, the dieting industry, it basically can't fail. Because if you don't lose weight on the diet, it's just because you did it wrong. You know? It's not the manufacturer, quote unquote, of whatever diet or whatever. It's the consumer's fault. And also, like, BMI charts are they're okay, sort of, but, like, everyone's so different that it really it doesn't say much.
Yeah.
And so I replied to this post, and the original poster sent me a message and was like, you know, I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't really think of it this way.
Yeah.
And then they, like, replied to my post, like, on Tumblr, and reblogged it, and other people saw it, and I was like, maybe I did something good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that's when you know you've, like, truly convinced someone whenever they apologize.
Yeah. And it's like, I didn't need them to apologize, you know? Like, just admitting, like, that, you know, that their thought might have been a little bit biased because of the way they grew up in this consumerist society.
Sure.
Like, you know, but the fact that they apologized was nice, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there's an element of being nice is also closer to being right.
Yeah. Maybe, yeah.
Which is also contrary to the trend of geniuses being assholes. But it's also a lot easier to appreciate a genius that isn't an asshole.
Yeah. Well, I can say, though, that the best therapist I ever had was not nice.
Mm-hmm.
She did not mince words. I mean, she was nice. She was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I still think of her as a motherly figure. But, like, she was super blunt.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that, like, in therapy, compared to, like, in the real world,
Yeah.
like, things that are more, like, generally, like, injustices against humanity instead of injustices against yourself, it's different. But, like, I did need this genius therapist to be blunt with me and say, like, no, the things that you're thinking just don't make sense, and until you just stop thinking that, you're not going to make any progress.
Sure.
Yeah.
What's some things in society that we can apply that same logic to?
Let's see. A lot of stuff. I mean, to use the example of my life, you know, the way that depression affected me, and like my guilt problems and like self-worth problems. Like, I wasn't going to let go of that until somebody really convinced me that it wasn't doing anything for me at all. It was just making my life worse. And I think that's something to be said about guilt in general. Like, people need to be able to, I guess, move past their guilt. But see, the problem is people don't even admit to their guilt anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I'm thinking about, like, this article I saw the other day about how whatever cop, I don't even want to try and remember his name, who ended up killing Trayvon Martin, was bragging about it at some bar or whatever, and got punched in the face.
Yeah.
It's like they don't even know. They feel, I mean, I'm not this person, but people don't even admit that they're wrong. So it's hard to go past that, and because I think the bluntness really applies most when people get stuck in a rut of the I'm not worthy thinking. And so, and that's sort of easy to do in America whenever you grow up watching commercials talking about how it's Maybelline and not the people, you know, and how, like, you're, how does that relate to guilt? Oh, yeah, you're not worthy because you don't look like this. And, yeah, but it's total bullshit. It really is.
I mean, what are ways that we can take consumerism out of culture?
Oh boy, I don't know if it'll ever go away entirely. I mean, not without just totally abolishing money in general. Yeah, which, I mean, ideally, like,
that's me, but yeah.
Yeah, I think anarcho-communism is a pretty cool thing, but I think until we get to that point, you really can't abolish consumerism, at least not entirely. I don't know.
Regardless of how wonderful an effect it's having on just people in general.
Yeah, I mean, the most that we can do is teach our children to not buy into it. I think, at least for now, that's the most we can do.
Yeah.
And take steps towards moving to a moneyless society, if that's possible. I don't know, but it'd be nice to have some sort of utopia someday.
What would be your ideal utopia?
Well, thinking about this in a moderately Marxist way. Eventually, capitalism will kill itself somehow. Everything will be, mechanized. Like, we won't have to do anything, and so we can just sit around playing games all the time, basically. And yeah, I don't know. That's probably it. Just sit around, drink coffee, smoke weed or something, or I don't know, really enjoy what the world really should be instead of worrying about jobs and money. But I don't know if we'll ever get there. I don't know.
What's there to enjoy?
A lot. People in general. And another thing, that kept me from, totally giving up on life is it's just too interesting to not see how it turns out. I want to stay alive just to see what happens. It's almost
the real life clickbait.
Yeah. And what's there to enjoy? There's music, there's art, there's games, and just the relationships you make with people that share your interests. And I mean, these are only my interests. I'm not very good at sports, but sports are cool. I'm not very good at arts and crafts, but there's something to be said about that stuff too. Yeah, there's a lot of nice things. Nature is something that I'd like to get more of in my life.
Yeah,
but it's hard, and I guess in this day and age, yeah.
To make a hard freaking turn, and just I don't know, just straight up answers. Is there a God?
I don't know. And I can't know. I don't think there is.
Okay.
But I'm also...
This is also just what you think, not even necessarily what is true.
Yeah. Yeah, there could be. If there is, I've got a lot of questions for them.
Okay.
I mean, maybe, the way I like to think about a God, if there is a God, is, and I've seen, so this was also a meme that I saw, it's just I've met God, she's black. So, it'd be cool if... But that's still taking the, humanoid idea of a god, which I don't think, if there is a god, I don't think it would look like a human.
Yeah.
And I think my favorite idea of God is some sort of just, entity that I guess maybe somehow set things into motion and just watches.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Free will?
Free will. Yeah. Another thing I don't know. I feel like things can't be entirely deterministic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is something I get stuck on a lot.
That's
Every time it comes up. It's just... Well, I was going to say, it's hard to explain, things like evolution. Then I was like, wait, no, it's not. It's determinism. It's just the explanation. Blah, blah. And that's how I get stuck on it. But I still don't think things are entirely that way.
Sure.
And I need to think more about how to explain what I think. I need to know why I think that, which I have an idea, but I don't know how to put that into words yet.
Yeah. Aliens.
Aliens? It'd be great if they existed. I think it would be a nice reality check for humans, because we seem to be getting these big heads, we're all that matters,
You know who else has big heads?
Who?
Aliens.
Yes. Yeah, I think I'd really like it if aliens were real and would visit us and teach us things. I don't know why I think they'd be more technologically advanced than us. That's again, it's hard to think of aliens in a perspective that's not like human.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I like the multiverse theory, and I don't know where I'm going with this. And thinking about like maybe if they don't exist in this universe, then maybe somewhere they do, and maybe someday they'll open up some sort of crazy hole and come visit us. But you know, I don't know. But I do like the idea of aliens.
And then what happens when we die?
Oh. Well, when I was a kid, I used to think that we just kind of went to sleep again until we woke up somewhere else. And it, like, we might not remember who we used to be, and it's almost like I believed in reincarnation, which is weird. And that's also how I understood abortion. Like, whenever someone terminated a pregnancy, it's not like they were killing this human. It's like they were just putting this soul back into the well of souls that exists outside of whatever we live in to just, like, you know, pick out again whenever they get pregnant again. So, but really, I think we just kind of go back to the elements we're made of and turn into star stuff, and then Carl Sagan will talk about us on Cosmos. No, I'm kidding. But that is a comforting thought to me also, is just that we're made of star stuff, and even when we die, you know, it's not like, I don't think I'll be conscious or anything like that. I'll just go back to the earth, and that'll be it. And that's okay.
It is okay. Who's your favorite band right now?
Right now, probably LCD Sound System, just because I just saw them live. And it's not like I didn't just see Radiohead live. It's like they're an exception. They're always going to be like in the top.
Yeah.
But LCD Sound System was amazing to see live. We somehow got really close to the stage. And like James Murphy at least appears to be a very genuine, adorable human. Like the way he just talked in between songs. And then the music is just brilliant. Let's see, Losing My Edge is a song that I really think is great of his.
I sadly don't listen to LCD Sound System, and I will.
Oh yeah, no, they're pretty great. Other than them, my other like main favorite band is Everything Everything, and they're this really cool group out of England, who their music is super, at least to me, it's super original. I can't think of other bands to compare them to.
Yeah. Britain always making them wonderful bands.
Yeah, and their lyrics are genius. They released an album last year, and it's interesting because last year was when I was going through the breakup from the unhealthy relationship that I had, and so I was in the middle of like huge like depression. Yeah. But I was like, I'm going to stay alive long enough for this album to come out so I can listen to it. Yeah. And then there was a song on it called Zero Pharaoh, which is really good. And there's a bridge in that song, and the lyrics are like, just, it's give me the gun, like over and over again, just give me the gun, give me the gun. And I remember I was driving through Tulsa listening to that, and then I started crying. But their album, it's called Get to Heaven, and it's very critical of life right now, what it's like to be human. The lead singer kind of, like, in Zero Pharaoh, what, like, it's kind of talking about is, if you had as much power as some of these world leaders do, would you do the same thing? Would you do the awful things that they do?
Yeah.
And, like, there's a song called Fortune 500, which is from the perspective of, I don't know if he's a suicide bomber or whatever, but he's basically going to kill the Queen of England. But hearing it from his perspective, it's like, they told me that if I do this, my family will be okay. And then there's another song called Regret, and that one's, it's about, well, it's not about, but it talks about, like, people being, like, recruited into, like, ideological terrorist groups, like ISIS, and, like, how easy it might be.
Yeah.
And, sorry, I keep going on, but,
You're
like,
fine.
the first song on the album, the first lyric that you hear is, "So you think there's no meaning in anything that we do." And they're just so clever, and it's really, really, really relatable to all the angry feelings that I have towards everything right now, really. And I would recommend everybody listen to them, because they're brilliant. And it's not only are their lyrics great, but their music is great. And they have a really brilliant drummer, which is something that I look for in bands, because I think the beat, the drums, whatever, it can make or break the music.
Yeah.
So, and they're really creative with that stuff.
Favorite video game?
Oh boy. Well, right now, I've been trying to finish Ocarina of Time, which is wonderful. Before that, we were playing Link to the Past, so I'll probably... and those are actually the only two Legend of Zelda games that I've played.
I've never played a Zelda game.
Oh man, okay, Link to the Past is wonderful. I tried to play the first one, but it was actually so hard that we just kind of gave up, because I'm really bad at
it. It is really hard.
Otherwise, I think that I really like Skyrim. It's hard to not like Skyrim. And there's another one I was going to say. Oh no, I forgot. Pretty much all of the Bethesda games are pretty great. And Sims, of course. I grew up on Sims. That's a different kind of game. Maybe,
Yeah.
but, have to say it.
Yeah, so, plugging things. You have a Twitter?
Yeah, it's, hypotenuse. A play on my last name. So.
Do you want people to follow you?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, it's not that interesting, but it's fun.
If you want some positive or interesting vibes in your life, look that stuff up. Same with your Instagram, I think.
Yeah, Instagram I'm on a lot more. I really like photography.
I'm much less on Instagram, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I am Santiago Ramones, and follow me on Twitter at SantiagoR_music, or you can find all of the other things that I do, including this podcast, on my website, SantiagoRamones.com. Yeah, thanks for doing the podcast. And thank you, listener, for listening. I always end with the three things. Love never fails. It's going to be okay. I might be wrong.